Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
All right, it's past, so let's get started. We don't really have much to demo, but I guess we wanted to see each other, so let's chat. Do we want to go through the blockers again?
Geez, it feels like we just did this, right?
Well,
but
we
I
did
guess
it
other people
yesterday.
haven't. Yeah, no. Maybe we can just do highlights.
Let me highlight a couple of things that I think are important, and you can highlight a couple of things that you are
sure. So let's just talk about the immediate blockers to the Git HTTPS migration. Let's start with that. The only blocker we have right now is the cross AZ traffic. Other than that, there was a new blocker that we just discovered this morning, which is that, I'll put that on the issue, which is just another charts issue. And this is that the Sentry DSN for Workhorse. Oh,
sorry,
no problem. Yeah, just Sentry DSN for Workhorse is set in the wrong container.
My only thing with that is that I don't know if you've ever looked at the Workhorse Sentry logs, but they are like really not very exciting at all. In fact, they're not. Then I mean, I don't know if I would put that as a blocker because
then let's not.
I mean, that's just my opinion. But if you look at the Rails ones are like obviously critical. The Sentry ones, I was looking at them the other day, and there was like a lot of random stuff in there, you know, and none of it particularly helpful.
Okay, well, I have an MR for the fix. We just need to get it merged. So maybe it's like a minor blocker, it's just something we noted randomly.
Let's lower the severity of this and
sure.
Say 4 and priority. Why not 4 random?
Yeah,
and you already have a fix.
Yeah. So I guess other than those, well, 1 and 1/4 of an issue, other than those issues, we just have the performance problems that we saw yesterday when we started to take traffic. It's like, don't trust Canary or the discussion.
Your connection is dropping out. I can hear half of it.
Routing. Sorry. If we're back now, it sounds like we're just, it sounds like that we're going to start taking a percentage of traffic to Canary Git before we do the next migration attempt.
Cool. My only concern with that was, are we exposing our users to more outages? And that's why I was asking how many of these incidents did we have with Git HTTPS in the recent past? And I guess it's really hard to find that because we are not really, it's not really easy to track those things at the moment. So I'm fine with us. I think I saw one incident that we had a year ago or something So it's not
There
that
was one
frequent.
like yesterday. No, there was one. Sorry, I'll just try to find it. Cameron basically pinged on that issue that scalability 470. Cameron pasted right at the bottom of that. Like that here, I'll paste it in. Give me a sec. It's production 2461.
Right, but is this because of the changes that were being made in the middle of the day when Jar was working on this, or was this a
No,
real
that was
thing?
just. Sorry, I thought you were asking how many Git Canary issues there were in general, or are you talking about specifically?
I'm talking in general. How many issues did we have in general with Git HTTPS traffic in the past whatever time? It can be Canary, it can be the main stage. Doesn't really matter in production, basically. So my question here for this one is this caused by the work that Jar was doing or not?
No, it wasn't. It's just that the problem is that there's several things, right? The first thing is that the majority of the traffic that goes to Canary at the moment is going to prefect effectively, because and so anything that happens to prefect happens to that, and then the Gitly node behind prefect is so overloaded just because of the pathological nature of the www.gitlab.com repo that it also gets really slow. And so basically we've got that silenced on the alerts now pretty much nonstop, because it doesn't adhere to any of our alerts. And a lot of the time we just kind of deal with it. But it fires a lot.
Right, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's the actual service that's the problem. It can be that, well,
it's difficult to but if we didn't have it all pointing at the if we didn't have those particularly bad repos going there, it would be a fairer comparison, because obviously what we're doing at the moment is taking the worst repo and we're sending it to Canary, which is good in a way, but it's also really not great for, like, if you're trying to compare the Kubernetes Canary to the main production traffic, because obviously it's going to be much worse.
I see.
And
but theoretically, it can also give us better insight because it's going to be better balanced, right?
Yeah, but it's still going to the same backend, so it's still going to, the problem is like it's going through prefect and then it's hitting a node that's like very, very overloaded, and trying to do hundreds of clones constantly. So if you compare it to the main stage, because it's got that directed traffic, it's going to be worse, like a lot worse.
Okay.
I mean, obviously if you want to kind of really test it hard, that's a good thing to test it with, but you can also do that by kind of increasing the traffic. But then it just doesn't feel like a fair test, because we've really kind of handicapped the Canary stage by the traffic that we're sending it.
Okay. But I guess I'm not really certain what I want to ask now. I think like it's a bit unfair to also say, well, let's take out GitLab.com, right? Like that's regular request routing from.
Yeah, I think what all I'm saying is that, like, the traffic is totally randomized, right? So we just say, like, we start with 1% of traffic. Yeah, and then it's like it's much fairer. Where at the moment we're kind of saying we're putting the hardest repository to clone onto Canary, and then every time something goes wrong, people are gonna, you know what it's been like with the registry, right? It's like, oh, it's Kubernetes, right? And actually it's often not, and this alerts all the time as it is, and so it's going to be like, oh, quickly turn off Kubernetes, I think. Whereas if the traffic loads are roughly the same, to some degree, then it's like it's much easier to kind of compare like with like. And the latencies will be more similar, and you can compare latencies where at the moment it's like, well, the latencies on this are like 5 times as much, but actually every repo that's going there is really huge. So yeah.
Okay, well, I think that resolves one problem then. So
yeah,
let's give it a shot, right? Like we know that we know what's happening right now. So
the other thing that's nice about it is that we can, once we make it randomized, we can take off the alerts, because that's the other thing that I've been feeling quite uncomfortable about, is that we're rolling this out, but we've actually silenced alerts for the stage that we're rolling it out on, which is not cool. And so with this, we can theoretically, first randomize the traffic and then take off the alerts and then roll it out without any alerts on.
Joe, are we doing that, or do you want to, or are you proposing to do the migration as well at the same time? What was your proposal in that issue, in the delivery one? Oh, Jar might have connection issues.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back though.
You're back. Job, Maren was asking if you wanted to do it where we randomize the traffic first and then do the rollout, or if you had a different plan.
Oh yeah, that's the plan, of course. Like we're gonna do, I'm almost done with taking a percentage of traffic to VMs. We even increased the capacity on the VM so that now we have 3. Because I'm a little bit worried because we do the rolling upgrade, so I only want to take out one node at a time. Instead of going from 100% to 50%, we go from 100% to 66%. So yeah, so that's going to be the first thing we do. So I don't anticipate us to do. We might finish up this VM change today, and then we'll do the Kubernetes change on Monday.
Well, that's not going to be good enough, though, Jar, then, because what we want to do is then have a bit of a longer soaking time, so that we can actually see whether there are any alerts going to Canary depending on the time of the day, right? So that we can have a good base comparison. If you do it today, if you roll this out today, you can't, we can't go on Monday and change that around again, right? We have to pause this a bit, the migration.
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, so we could wait. We could let it sit for a little bit longer. We are
also Monday is US holiday, so that's not going to work as well.
Yeah, I'm not actually working, so
good.
So yeah, that's fine. And when we do this migration, we're also splitting Kubernetes and VMs first. So we'll do 50% on VMs, 50% on Kubernetes, and then we'll go 100%. So, but yeah, so it sounds like Tuesday is our time frame.
So are we going to turn the silencers off today?
I would like to, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great, but who's
we
on
obviously
call?
Just let the SREs on call know, that they're welcome to put them back.
Yeah.
Can someone check who's on call in the afternoon?
It's Mikkel, and then it's well, it was Matt. I don't know. Oh, it's Cameron.
Oh, it's Canary.
And then Craig Miskell.
Okay, let's make sure that we inform them what we are trying to do. I know there is going to be some pushback on doing this on Friday, but last I checked, Friday is a working day in general. So as long as there are tools to revert back, meaning train the Canary, right? We should be good, right? Am I mistaken here? Okay, something goes wrong when we switch the traffic. And we don't want SREs on call to think about reverting merge requests and so on. We can tell them drain the Canary and move on, right?
Yeah, that's the procedure.
Okay, let's give that tool into their hands and deal with.
Man, my connection's awful. Sorry. We'll be able to drain Canary if we're set it to maintenance if we have to. No problem.
Cool. And let's leave it like that. And then come Monday, I would like to be able to enable Canary if things are okay. If something happened over the weekend.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I work Monday, so I'm happy to enable it on Monday.
Okay.
But yes, sure. Like one day when we are feeling confident. Okay, let's do it that way. Jar, this means basically I don't think before Wednesday we'll be able to roll this out on Kubernetes, and that is fine because we want to have a more stable base, so it's fine. Cool. All right. Skarbek, tell me about the Sidekick shard migration, the catch-all.
Why don't you let me share my screen real quick?
Yes, of course.
So as a quick refresher, we thought we were blocked on, what did you do that for? We thought we were blocked on being able to migrate our first batch due to some configuration audit that was done. It was later determined that we weren't necessarily blocked, so we were able to push the first batch of queues over to Kubernetes. The only problem we ran into was that there was a network policy that was preventing the container registry from being accessed by Sidekick. This was later resolved quickly because it created an incident. I think, Jar, if you were going to spin up an issue and look into that further later, I did not do any further investigation. I think it's just the way our Helm chart works. It's looking at the internal endpoint for the service to reach the container registry instead of going outdoors and then circling back through HA proxy into the same cluster that made the request. So now I'm working on batch 2. So I have a select number of queues. There's 100 and change in this workload. How many was it? 107 queues I selected. Yesterday I did a quick check and we are doing a lot of NFS reads, opens, accessing data inside of NFS, which is not great. It's not what we want. So this, the rest of yesterday and this morning, I was trying to get the tool that Andrew wrote that hooks into eBPF in the kernel to grab some NFS metric data. So now we should be able to get the classes that Sidekick is requesting NFS access of some form. So for the rest of today, along with other work, I'm going to drum up the appropriate queries to make sure I get the right class names and figure out which queues they're part of, and then remove those from catch NFS so I could continue the evaluation. That way, hopefully next week, I'll have slimmed it down to only the queues that are ready for Kubernetes, and then later next week, migrate those over to Kubernetes.
So the second batch is the batch you selected based on that sheet we gathered, the investigation we did with other stage teams where they said yes or no to
Precisely.
using NFS. And the batch you selected was the one that had no's or maybes in them.
A combination. So there was a few maybes and there's a few unshores, but I captured all of them that were either no's or unshores.
Okay.
The first batch was all no's, but we didn't have the entire spreadsheet filled out. We had enough to get started and allowed me to at least get this process going to figure out how we're going to proceed forward. So we do have a few maybes that are in this list.
It might have been better to just reduce it to only the ones that we are certain about so that we can, because we want to group maybes and no's or maybes and yeses together, or, you know, because we can expect to have this, but up to you. It doesn't really matter as long as we get to the bottom of them.
Yep.
Can you now show me how do I look in Grafana to see any differences between what is in Kubernetes when it comes to the queues and what is not in this chart? So not in Tenos. The reason why I'm asking this is because that's where people on call are going to be looking at.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a good answer for you, sir. So right now we group everything based on the shard they are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no breakout inside of our shards that indicate whether they are part of a virtual machine or whether they are part of Kubernetes.
So how do we follow things going wrong with the migration?
Logs are going to be the best place. That's
Mm-hmm.
how we discovered the problem with the container registry when batch 1 was completed. Because in our logs, you've probably seen this before. But you are correct. We don't have any visibility inside of Grafana at this moment to determine where Q lives at this moment.
Do you think this is important?
Yeah, you know,
it's quite easy to add it to the Q detailed page if people wanted that.
See.
I would really appreciate if we did that, because I don't want to demonize what is in Kubernetes versus what is in VMs, but it would help investigations quite a lot if we at least knew that.
We do at least have a method where we could search for Kubernetes.something exists, and then we'll have all the workers and logs associated with Kubernetes that are running inside of the Kubernetes workload. And then, you know, there's the, I don't know why catch-all showing. Oh yeah, catch-all, because that's the name of it. Sorry, I'm mixing up catch-all and catch NFS in my mind. But this will at least help us from our logs determine where things are running. I would agree that we probably should add some more visibility inside of Grafana so that we could easily determine where the failures are, whether they're inside of Kubernetes or inside of our VM infrastructure. I'll create an issue to address that.
Thanks.
And Andrew, maybe I could work with you to figure out how to.
Yeah, this actually ties in. There's this thing that we really need, and it's in the observability backlog. I'll just highlight it. And like if we had, like at the moment, I would say we just use the label FQDN, but obviously now all of the stuff moving over, FQDN is null for all of the Kubernetes stuff. And so we need we can't use instance because it's just an IP and no one knows what the hell the IP is. But we need like a name that works in Kubernetes and in like VM land. And so what we can do is we can just create one that's like a concatenation of them. And so some will have the first part, some will have the second. But like really what we need to do is fix that issue and rename FQDN or something. There's a whole epic on it now. I'll find it.
Hopefully
there is an epic about it?
Yeah. The most important one is that one. Like the rest of them, you know, like Ben really wants to rename environment to env, which I'd like as well because it'll just shorten things. But the one that's important is the naming of the label.
If we can do that, then great. But I'm not willing to take on another epic. Just
no, that's an observability epic as well. But
okay.
Hopefully we could create or modify our existing dashboards to make that easier without having to deal with the epic.
Yeah, for now we can just use, like there's no blocker, it's just, it'll be super quick, but it'll just be ugly, but I mean, who cares? Yeah.
I'll create an issue after this meeting and link that to the agenda.
Cool.
Any more questions for me, I guess? Okay. I don't have any.
I just wanted to say, I was looking at those metrics that are coming back, and like this is all on me because it's my script. But when I look at the results, I'm not super like filled with optimism that it's working as I hoped. Because I just put the query in there that I was using, and you know maybe with time it'll get better. But you know what I'm seeing there is lots of job wrapper. Import note worker. I mean, do you think that does NFS?
I don't know. That's
I
where we
mean, it
need to
doesn't
perform
sound
the
like it.
investigation.
Yeah.
Wait, import
Uh,
note worker, as in
Yeah.
NOTE? It's possible.
Import note. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I hope I'm wrong, like, because I want the code that I wrote to work, but I'm not looking at it. I'm kind of like being a bit neg.
Import is quite possible, like pulling things from NFS anyway to import issues, merge requests, and so on. So usually it's just a zip file or archive of some sort, and so it's not
so maybe
impossible.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it is.
Andrew, also keep in mind that
well.
I didn't have Sidekick configured correctly because I had concurrency set to like 15 or something.
Right.
Because I made the wrong change early this morning. So basically anything before 9:30, we need to just kind of remove from our searches. And that will probably greatly change the results that are coming out of this.
That's a good point. 9:30. So, and what time is it now? How long ago was that? Like more than an hour ago?
I'm -4 right now. So,
what's the time now?
13:30 UTC.
Okay. So I can do like 2 hours. Cool.
So is that the reason why you're around at 4 a.m. working?
No,
not being able to sleep because of NFS?
So, no.
This is recorded, by the way.
Something just startled me awake this morning and I couldn't fall back asleep. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to work. That way I could stop working earlier and enjoy my longer weekend a little bit longer.
Totally makes sense. Cool.
I've just updated the, so there's a better link in there that gives a longer period. And what's interesting there is
repository language is worker.
Yeah, not sure
the
what
top
that has
ones.
anything
That's basically
to do.
ordered. Yeah. Delete diff files is definitely going to be sounds fishy.
Yeah.
The problem is that if there's very short jobs that run, and then the eBPF thing goes from the kernel to the user land kind of afterwards, the logs take a long time, because I'm kind of relying on like synchronicity of the logs getting written, me reading the logs, and then me getting the information from the kernel out to user land. And so it might be that I'm kind of like everything's just off kilter and I'm reading, things at the wrong times. But let's see. Anyway, have a good weekend. Have a good long weekend to the people having a long weekend.
Yeah, I think we don't have anything else to discuss, I think. So, well, actually, let me ask Jar Skarberg, anything else that you would like to discuss before we wrap up?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And see you next week, Tuesday, I think, some of you.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.